Even skeptical parents can raise children who are believers. I haven't doubted any experience I've ever had in my short life. The various experiences I've experienced are all true and happening at different times over the years. Do they all weave together? I don't know. Due to the truth behind this post, I will not be releasing any names. All you need to know about me is that I am a 14-year-old American girl with a mother, a father, 2 older brothers, one of which died, and am a Catholic. My parents divorced when I was 3, so afterwards, they moved into separate houses, with shared custody over my brother and me. So I know that the house we previously lived in before was not haunted. Maybe haunted isn't the right word. More sensitive to spirits seems better. To be honest, my brother remembers this more than I would often tell him that the planets came last night. I was only about 2 to 5 years old when I said this. I remember sometimes I would see about 8 or 9 small spheres that were a clear white color in my room at night. They moved very fluidly, all together as well, and would eventually disappear. I don't remember saying or seeing them all the time, but according to my brother, who is several years older than me and thus, would have remembered it better, says that I would claim I'd seen the planets very often. The only clear memory I have is when I was 5, and my brother and I were sharing a room in my dad's condo he had been renting. I couldn't fall asleep, the closet scared me, and then I turned and saw the planets in the middle of the room. They moved slowly, so I woke my brother up, saying, "Insert name here, the planets are here." He woke up, alert, asking where. I pointed as they flew smoothly under his bed, disappearing. He said, "Whoa," and seemed shocked. I don't know if he saw it too, or if he was just scared by how I would say I did. I wasn't trying to sound creepy, I was a kid, just curious and blunt, which seems creepy when you take into account that I wasn't lying. I don't even think I knew much about the planets, but since there were 8 or 9 and came in different sizes, my young mind drew a conclusion that they resembled the solar system in some way. It took me years to realize that I had been seeing orbs. My brother, who is usually a big skeptic, only showed one hint of believing when we mentioned this. He says it's crazy because when I was little, I stayed in his old room, being my other brother. Died as a baby about a year before I was born, so I never knew him. It could make sense that I would see orbs in his room, but they followed me to any of the new homes I lived in when I was little. I haven't seen them in years. When I did though, they didn't really scare me. They were odd, but not exactly unwelcoming, and eventually it felt almost natural to see them at night. My dad, the biggest skeptic, says it was just my imagination. That could also be true, but again I saw them for years. I don't recall talking to them the way a child talks to their imaginary friend. I just watched, I guess. Another experience I had when I was little were nightmares. Yes, everyone has them, but I was a little girl and the fact that it was the same disturbing one constantly scares me even today. I can still remember the vivid details. I'm walking alone in the cemetery where my deceased brother is buried. I'm lost, but I keep hearing my mom's voice. The cemetery begins to distort, becoming a swamp near a forest. I finally find my mom in the swampy water, so I race in after her, only to helplessly watch her drown before I drown myself. Scary, right? Sometimes the ending where we both die would interrupt another dream. I had this very dream, or ending of a dream, many times in our first house, and never again after. I never told anyone for years. As a kid, I had the biggest imagination. My love for superheroes, fairies, and mermaids lasted, only the superhero one remains today XD. From the time that I was 5 to the time that I was 10 was mostly uneventful in terms of paranormal happenings. There was an instance when I thought I saw a shadowy figure rush in front of me one morning in my room, but of any of the experiences, this is the only one I can say might have truly been my imagination. As mentioned above, the activity started again when I was 10, only from this point on, it was very, very different than before. I was up reading one night. I wasn't tired, it was only about 9 p.m. Suddenly, a woman's voice called my name. It startled me, but didn't frighten me. It was an odd sensation, the voice sounded right between a voice in my head and voice out loud. I smiled, and kept reading. My mom thought that since it didn't scare me, it could have been the Virgin Mary. A year later, I was trying to fall asleep, but my brother was taking a shower and it kept me up. A man's voice, deep and powerful, also echoed my name. It gave me a loving feeling, and I fell asleep right away. It was above me, as opposed to beside me like the woman. Was it God? I'm not sure. When I was 12, things began to change. Again, I was up in bed, surfing the web on my old iPod Touch. A younger man's voice spoke my name, passing through me. Unlike the others, this one made me feel a bit uncomfortable. I tried to ignore it, but the fact that this was the third time and while I was in bed, the first two at my mom's house, the third voice at my dad's, made me curious. I researched if this was normal. Apparently if you are very tired, you can hear noises that may not be there. It would have made perfect sense, except all 3 times, I was in bed, yes, but awake. It made me slightly uneasy. However, it was nothing too serious. Yet, in the years that I was in 6th and 7th grade, 12 and 13 years old, I'd started having problems. Stress and drama took over my life. I'm not a popular person, which I'm pretty much fine with now, but wasn't back then. My friends and I fought all the time, I was doing worse in school. Negative emotions began to surface, and this got me to believing that bad feelings can draw these spirits to you. I began sensing things. I felt paranoid, and always felt like I was being watched. Unlike the first 2 voices or even the orbs, I was uneasy and scared. The sounds of children talking became constant. I would hear spirits talking with the same not in my head, not out loud feelings. They sounded unfamiliar and like they were having hushed conversations amongst themselves, but I heard my name several times. They didn't scare me quite as much as the feeling of being watched did. The next night, Wednesday, I was with my mom that night. Much like the other times, I was up in bed, listening to music when something growled in my right ear. It wasn't the song, and it sounded different. I know it's going far to say that since it didn't sound human, it could have been a demon, but what I do know is that it scared me so badly that I didn't sleep the entire night. You may have noticed that most of these experiences are happening at night, which is kind of cliché. Yet, most of the time when I felt the feeling of something watching and or following me, it's happened during the day. But I'm alone almost every time. In the afternoon on Tuesday, I was waiting for my dad to come home. For over an hour, I kept hearing voices. And as if on cue, the moment before I stepped into my room, I heard a little girl whisper, "Be careful ******** being my name. The children's voices slowly quieted down afterwards. But the strange thing was, I couldn't see her, but sensed that she was on my right and where her height was next to me. I rarely saw anything, apart from 2 times when a black figure appeared to be standing in both my mom's and dad's living rooms, proving again that it's not one house, but me. The next day I told my religion teacher about it, and he advised me to pray to the Holy Spirit every time I'd hear a voice or feel something. So I did. I told my mom about this, too. Overall, she's more of a believer than my dad or brother. She still can be skeptical though, blaming many of my experiences on the fact that I love horror movies and watch them a lot. Still, she told me something I didn't know before, she can see spirits too. Not often, but she said that 2 days before my dog died, she saw his shadow and heard him walking around her house. He lived with my dad, not her. The same thing, seeing the dead before they died, happened previously to her with other family members. She has yet to mention it again, but I know she believes to an extent, unlike my dad and brother who are both atheists and skeptics. My mom sees more, whereas I sense and hear. I'm now 14 and my life had improved from where it was a year ago. It's far from perfect, but I'm not feeling quite so negative, which in my opinion, had stopped drawing in negative spirits. Despite experiences that scared me, I think I'm intuitive to all spirits in general. After the activity slowly died down, I didn't have anything happen for a while. That isn't to say it's stopped completely. Every now and then, I still feel a spirit watching me. It's not always malicious. It has been, but I've also experienced curiosity. Praying has helped. As I stopped being afraid of horror movies as the months went by, I simply enjoyed them more. The fear didn't play tricks with my mind, or bring anything negative closer to me. Only 3 or 4 occurrences have happened recently. A few months ago, I couldn't sleep in my room, because as childish as it seems, there was a very large and very much alive cockroach lurking around. So I stayed in my brother's old room, he moved out, not my deceased brother, and was up for hours typing a story. It was silent, apart from the keyboard clicking until I heard a boy's voice say my name. It had been a while since I'd heard something like that, but it was very clear and he only sounded a little older than me. I got a feeling inside that I might have been my deceased brother, who would be 15 now. Like the little girl over a year ago, I didn't see him, but felt him there and knew where he was standing. A month after that, another voice was heard. An unfamiliar woman shouted my name. She sounded a bit angry and very urgent, causing me to feel a little uneasy. It went away later, and I put it out of my mind. 2 weeks ago, a loud scratching was heard on my wall in the morning after I'd had a nightmare. I wasn't sure if it was a raccoon or my nerves, and simply left the room. And only a few days ago, did something unusual happen. I was watching my friend's dogs while her family was away. I came early in the day to feed and walk them. The lights were off, but when I got there at night, a lamplight was on. I suspected that it must have been automatic, because there was no way that either dog could have done it, and I locked the front door after I left earlier. So I turned it off, and tried to open the patio door, which was extremely hard to do. I got it open and left it unlocked while I fed one dog out there. I tried to open it again, it was locked. I didn't touch the lock, and freaked out because the dog was locked outside. I did something I used to do when a light flickered or one of my objects disappeared unexplainably. I suspected it was a spirit and asked it to stop. I begged them to let the dog out, and when I tried opening the door again, it was unlocked. I thanked the spirit and kept the door slightly open just in case. It sounds strange, but the only times I interact with a spirit is when an object of mine vanishes, or a light won't turn on, or maybe something freezes. Sometimes, they will obey me. But I will say that one of my rosaries has yet to return to me, no matter how many times I search my room. Overall, I hope you understand that this may not seem super dramatic. I know why. I don't ask for it. I'm careful. I don't play with Ouija board or, despite what my non-believing friends say, contact spirits. My mom and I are both Catholics, so I pray to God. I think I'm just sensitive to spirits and their presence. And really, in a strange way, doesn't it being less dramatic make it more realistic? Just because a demon didn't chase me down and choke me doesn't mean that any of my experiences didn't happen. I'm willing to believe that there are explanations for some things in life. Maybe to most, feeling or sensing something isn't evidence. It is to me just as much as seeing and hearing. To this day, I hate going to cemeteries, hospitals, and even the north staircase at my school where I'd heard little children whispering when the hallways were empty. I'd love to hear your opinions, thoughts, and knowledge. If you think I'm in danger, let me know. I honestly don't think I am now, but that isn't to say I won't be in the future. Thanks for reading, smiley face.